Today on the Ever Onward podcast, we have Luci Willits. Luci serves on the Boise City Council. We are very excited to have her on to hear all things Boise and her representation of our people here. She grew up in eastern Idaho on potato fields and worked in agriculture before moving to Boise, and has been on the Boise City Council now, is in her second term. We're really excited to talk to Luci, talk about her leadership. She's one of the tremendous leaders we do have here in the Valley, and excited to have her on our podcast. Luci Willits. Luci, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I am so excited to be here. I feel
We've tried to have you on a couple of times.
well. I feel very honored to be here, especially right after Memorial Day.
It was, Did you have a great weekend?
I had a wonderful weekend. I got to tell you, yesterday I went to Morris Hill Cemetery, and I'd never done this before, but the Civil War Association, and I'm probably saying that club wrong, but they do an amazing ceremony. There was Lincoln, had a woman read a poem about that a woman had wrote during the Civil War about grief and death.
I've never heard of this.
It was amazing. And then they did a 21-gun salute. They were all in.
And they do it every year.
Yeah, and it was all in authentic, uniforms. It was so meaningful. I just loved it.
Oh, I want to take my grandson.
Yeah,
there.
you would. Oh, yes.
So they do it every year.
Yes.
Were you there as an invitee for your role?
Well, I learned about it because of a city press release, but I wasn't formally invited, but I went, and I was glad I did because I wanted to show support from the city. And they're complete volunteers. They do it at Morris Hill, and then they do it at the Military Reserve.
Wow.
It was so neat. I kept telling them, thank you for taking your time to do this on a holiday.
It's so nice. We have a lot of holidays, and it seems like everything now is you celebrate something every day. There's even an app, I think, like it's like every day is celebrating something. But for us to on Memorial Day to pause and just reading through last night before I went to bed, I was reading through a bunch of the tributes.
Yes.
There's a bunch of touching stuff that's out there, and even the baseball games had the poppy on it yesterday, which was really cool. Anyway, I just we live in an incredibly patriotic place, and it's awesome that we do. And I can't imagine living somewhere in the United States where people didn't love, respect, and revere what has happened for this to become a country. And listen, it's not perfect. I mean, you can go through each war, and
we have lots of warts.
There's a lot of warts on everything, but what's underlying is a bunch of people that were willing to give their lives for this country.
It is a miracle. It really is when you think about what happened in this country. And there is no reason we should have won the Revolutionary War. None whatsoever. Yeah. My husband and I are big Lafayette folks. Like we liked Lafayette before Hamilton made it cool. And what he did, he single-handedly helped change the world. He was just a punk kid. He was like, I'm going to go fight with them. Yeah. He brought money and guns and changed our lives forever.
It's awesome. It's awesome. Well, I can't wait to get caught up with you. There's a lot going on. A lot going on in the city, a lot going on in the Treasure Valley. Yeah. You're right in the middle of it all. But before we get blazing into that, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself? And for those people that listen to this, a lot of business people listen to this, but people who may not know you, give a little intro for us.
Yeah, well, thank you. Again, thanks for the opportunity. So I'm as close to being a lifelong Idahoan as you can be. My parents moved from Montana when I was 2, and I've lived here virtually my entire life. I grew up on the other side of the state in potato country, and I joke that potato country is different. Like, we had school released for 2 weeks as children to work in the fields.
What town were you in?
I grew up in an unincorporated part of Jefferson County, little wide spot in the road called Grant, Idaho, and went to Rigby High School, and just really learned the value of hard work and patriotism. Yeah. And my dad was this entrepreneur that tried and tried and tried. He had all the good ideas before they could take off, and was a small business person. And I really learned the value of money, and that when you are a small business owner and a business owner, you get paid last. Yeah. And so that has really instilled in me a real focus on why the economy matters. And then also because I think it's important that people have the opportunity to succeed, and that there isn't artificial barriers to do that. And we really need to focus on making sure that people have that opportunity and drive and ambition. So grew up on 50 acres, down a dirt road, rural Idaho. Very, very determined to go to college. I knew that was my ticket out of poverty, and did that. Married my arch enemy from elementary school. I know, no one could believe we were together when we showed up at the 5-year reunion. And we've raised 2 beautiful daughters. I'm now a grandma.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I just my little grandson's celebrated his first birthday, and we did a lot of it.
Isn't that magical, Luci?
It's amazing. It's the whole reason I didn't kick her out when she wasn't when she was a teenager, because
Do they live around here?
They do. They live in Kuna.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So we love Idaho. My husband's family helped settle the town of Manan. Love this place. Have enjoyed purposely raising our children here, purposely staying in Idaho to be close to family, even though they're 5 hours away. And I really believe in the future of the state and this valley, and it's just given so much to us. And I when people say they've moved to Boise, I said, "Welcome to paradise."
Yeah.
Welcome to paradise. We're glad to have you.
It's wonderful. So tell us how. First of all, can I ask you a question? Go back a little bit.
Oh yeah.
What you said about small business,
Yeah.
I think it was just really powerful, because seeing it as the daughter of an entrepreneur, this idea that hey, we get paid last.
Yeah.
First of all, entrepreneurial spirit, small businesses, like the country's carried on the back
Yeah.
of small businesses.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you never have to worry about big business, because they've got more lobbyists than they've got floors of lobbyists.
Yeah.
And they're tracking every little bill and every little thing, taking care of everything. But it's the small businesses in this country. If you look at the tax base, if you look at who burdens it, it is small business owners. And so I love that when you said that they get paid last as a small business guy. And I'm helping on a couple right now, but it's true. I mean, you don't even ask him the question, how much am I going to make? The first question is, am I going to survive and become profitable?
Yeah.
And then now that I am profitable, do I use that money to grow, or what do I do? And it's so healthy to have to balance growth and what you take and what you don't, what you leave in the business. And so to have someone that understands that in politics is, in leadership's a big deal.
It's in my DNA. I can tell you lots of stories. But first, I will tell you my dad, hero. My dad was so smart. My dad had a high school diploma, and figured out how to build a feed mill. All the engineering for a feed mill. And my dad gave us jobs, and we had to invoice him in order to get paid. And if we didn't invoice him, we didn't get paid. And it was like, you have to keep track of this, and whether you get paid or not, and when you it was such a great life lesson for accounting. So I had Luci's cleaning business, and I cleaned the mill every Saturday, and it took hours because it's a mill and it's full of dust. Yeah. But he was so good about making me understand that, and that had value. And then if I was going to take that $2 that I earned that Saturday and spend it on something, was it worth that?
Wow.
He was such an amazing person when it came to ideas, and he never thought about it failing, even though they all ended up having some challenges. But I'll tell you what I loved about my dad is he just constantly reinvented himself. And that's what I love about the American spirit. I used to tease him that he was a little bit like Madonna. He was constantly reinventing himself. He'd run cattle operations. He'd farmed. He'd owned a hardware store. When I was a kid, we had a feed mill, so we roll and chop barley for dairy cows. Wow. And when the government came in and did the basically paid farmers to kill all their cows, dairy buyout, it decimated the business. So I have seen what government can do to a family when it decides to take the market.
Yeah.
And so all of those things have played such an important part of who I am and how I look at things, because it's not only how I was raised, but it's my DNA.
Yeah. And those genuine, authentic things that define what's, in your heart, mind, and soul that allow you to then set your base of values that allows you to make good decisions. I mean, that's leadership 101, right?
Yeah. I learned it from my family.
That's
you
cool.
know, I completely.
So let's jump forward here.
Okay.
Getting into city politics.
Fun.
How's it been?
I tell people it's been the most difficult thing I've ever done. Yet I have grown more in this than I've ever
What
done.
year were you elected?
2021, and I started my term in 2022. So it's been 3 years.
3 years. Okay, great.
And what I have really loved about it is the people. I've got to meet just amazing people that I would have never had the opportunity to meet before, and that has been just so rewarding. There's other parts of it that haven't been as rewarding, but it just reminds you of the goodness of the community. And you see people who come to meetings when they could be doing lots of other things. I mean, there are cheap movies on Tuesday nights. They could be there, and they show up because they care. And it is so incredible to me. I'm honored, and I'm always just really humbled that people will take their time to help, craft a government.
People love this place.
And for good reason.
They love this place. One of the things that you're known as, you're known as the lone kind of conservative.
I am the lone lioness.
On the Boise City Council. That comes up a lot.
Yes, the statesman always likes to say that.
It's interesting. If you think about city governance, and the mayor being the CEO of the city of Boise, right? Capital city. And then you guys are the elected council to help approve and make decisions on budget and everything else, run a city, right? You'd think that not too much of it would be partisan because some of that stuff ought to be, what's the best thing for business? But a lot of it is, right?
I think it comes down to philosophy. How people, we were just talking about how you view the world.
Yeah.
And I think it's less partisan and more philosophical. And I definitely have a very different philosophy. Last city council, I was the only one that worked for a for-profit company. The only city council person that worked for a for-profit company. And then now with Meredith got appointed, she also works for a for-profit company. But I come from a very different perspective on that because I know what it's like to do layoffs. I know what it's like to try to figure out the P&L. And I think that is really important. I always joke that, the mayor and I we wake up in the morning thinking about an E. The mayor thinks about the environment and I think about the economy. And that's just how we're wired. And so it's a good yin to the yang because, you have to have one to have the other.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I think I've spent time with every city council member you have. You have a good group of people right now.
We do, yeah, they're good people.
And that's, from when we do development, we interact a lot. We interact a lot with city governments. In fact, it's probably our most important, the piece of our. We like predictability. Business likes predictability. You just said about government coming in and buying all the cows.
Yeah,
I mean,
dairy buyout.
Government interaction with business, predictability, goalposts that are set and fixed for good reasons. And then we like critical thinkers. Like if you can go have an intelligent conversation with someone on a council and say, hey, we may see this differently, but can we talk about issue A, right? And you have a real healthy, and you can listen to the other side of it. And I can tell you, I've come out of those thinking, oh my gosh, I didn't understand that other perspective of this other person that sees the world differently than I do. I've also come out of them like, oh my gosh, can you believe that they see the world that way? But that's what makes America beautiful is we do have such varied opinions on so many different things. How has it been for you with this current council? Because they were just a bunch of sworn in this last year, right?
Yeah, so it is a very new council. Jimmy and I have served the longest.
Yeah.
When you think about that, is kind of interesting because prior to that, there were folks that had served for a long time. I think it's really healthy to have turnover.
Yeah.
I think it's incredibly important. Our system is based on it. If someone starts thinking that the system can't work without them, that's a problem.
Yeah.
I would say that all the council members work really hard You all pay a price for this.
Yeah.
It's time, it's money, it's emotional bandwidth. And I really appreciate my council members. I think they are genuinely good people who are trying to do the right thing.
Yeah. Do you guys get along?
I think we get along. Yeah. I mean, we obviously think things very differently, but I have really worked to be civil. And I think that's really important that people see that this is not a judgment call on someone's character if they vote differently than I do. It's just they have a different opinion.
Well, and you can't, I mean, I think you can be civil.
We need to expect civility.
For crying out loud, this country was built on varying ideas and people coming together and saying, how do we work through? Where do we have common? Where do we have common interests? Where do we harmonize what we think, and where don't we? And then these votes that happen, and you get to vote every city council meeting.
Yeah, and I think it's important that you have different views at the table because it will push change.
Yeah.
Because when you point out something that's just not logical and lacks common sense, that can help propel a change. And I tell people often when they come to city council and they get frustrated because it doesn't go their way, I say, what you've done is help propel change, because now you've told us what's not working.
Yeah.
And even if we're not voting the way you want us to do on this particular issue because of whatever reason, you have given us that nugget that we can go back and we can change. And I think that's incredibly important. When people stop showing up, we have a problem. People need to keep showing up.
That's powerful. And
I also will say, I'm very worried that when people don't feel listened to, they become radicalized. So they want to be listened to. Who's going to listen to them?
Yeah, yeah.
If it's not their elected officials, then they will find somebody who will listen to them.
With the current council makeup, do you ever feel picked on?
Oh, yeah. Are you kidding? No, I go in knowing every week that I am the lone lioness. Like, I don't have a machine behind me. I don't have, I don't have the machine of City Hall. I don't have a machine of a campaign. I have me, myself, and I. But I think it's really important that people see that you can do that, and you can walk into a place where you're probably going to get outvoted 90% of the time on the big stuff, and you can still walk out of the room and be okay.
Where does that strength come from? Well, let me preface that, but it's easy. All of us in our lives will have times when we're with the majority, right?
Yeah.
We are in a comfortable place because we know the people surrounding us think like us, believe like us, emotionally, or with us, and it's a comfortable place to be. We also will have these times when we're not, where, hey, we're going to kind of be alone, and we're going to be forced with, hey, and then I think for you, the other question I'd ask is, not only do you have to stand up for voting a different way, but you have to justify that with a intelligent response and reason, and realize that even though you're justifying and presenting a position that's against others, they're still not going to vote with you.
Oh yeah, I mean that's the hard part is
they're never going to see things your way.
Once in a while, I'll pick one or two off. Once in a while, but I think it's really important that people use their voice.
Yeah.
So I know that there will most likely be times that I am not on the winning side. Once in a while, I will join the majority. But what can't be silenced is that voice.
Yeah.
And that ability to point things out that need to change. And, you talked about going into a friendly crowd. So, I worked with the Idaho legislature for years. That is the exact opposite of Boise.
Yeah.
Boise has a supermajority of Democrats. The Idaho legislature has a supermajority of Republicans. When you testify at the Idaho legislature, when I used to, they were friendly faces.
Yeah.
And, I often go into city council not knowing if I'm going to get a friendly face.
Yeah.
And people are professional. I don't mean to make any sort of judgment there, but I know I'm going to be an outsider.
Yeah.
And so I really work to.
Can you speak a little more to that? Because I do think we've seen I'm getting old enough now that, you kind of see the local politics change. Mayors change. city councils change, even leadership with the staff in a city change, and we're in all jurisdictions most of the time. We're in other jurisdictions in other states too. It does feel like it's professional and civil and with you guys, and that's not always the case. Is that the truth?
Well, I don't know in depth about other city councils and how they run. I mean, I have enough on my plate watching ours and keeping up. But I think what sets Boise apart is we do have a very, very professional staff because we're big.
Yeah.
So I've gone to conferences where the city council people are having to make these decisions on very, very technical aspects of water treatment. And I thought, oh my gosh, we don't have to do that.
You need an expert to do that.
Yeah,
right?
we have the staff to do that. And as the capital city and as the largest city, we should. But I also think that we really try as a council to do that as well. Like I really believe that council members, my current council members especially, have really worked to be civil and to, disagree without being disagreeable. And, there was one case where one of my council members said, we were just arguing about that. I said, no, we weren't. We were discussing. Discussing is different than arguing, but just to try to tamp down on the emotion so that people can be people, I think is important.
That's awesome. Let's talk about some of the issues in the city.
Oh, there's lots.
There's lots. I'm gonna bring them up in kind of no order, but I do think, and I'm going to start with some things that I think the city and Mayor McLean has taken lead on. That I think the homelessness stuff. I know there's a lot of people that are worried about that because they see what's happened in jurisdictions around, and I frankly just can't be prouder of what you guys have been doing. I mean, it's been great, and you look at it's combining public safety, investment in police. That's a pillar of it. Then it's creating housing. That's a pillar of it. And I think we're frankly a little lucky that Caleb Roop and Pacific Companies is
we are.
we
are very fortunate.
Like when God looked down upon us and said, "Hey, Caleb, put your company in Eagle, Idaho." For those listening, Caleb Roop and Pacific Companies is probably the nation's #1 affordable housing developer, and he happens to be from Eagle, Idaho, just purely. So he's done several great projects, and I think that's been great because I think the whole housing, homelessness is a housing problem. I do believe that. And then I think some of the campaigns to not treat all homeless people the same, as an old-time night shift ER doc. I mean, they're not, right? You have those women, and mostly women, domestic violence with children that are homeless. A giant percentage of kind of the family homelessness population are somehow touched by that. Then you have the mental illness, where you're just not getting the treatment you need to stay off the streets. And then you do have kind of the drug, alcohol abuse, right? Still a disease, but they are different, right? And then you have there's a lot of people, especially with our economy now and with the affordability crisis that we're experiencing. There are people that are paycheck to paycheck, the working poor, that asset limited, income constrained, employed population. That they're really, So if you look at the number of people of teenagers that are probably couch surfing, bouncing around, or just, and a lot of these again are going to be kind of broken families.
Yeah.
There's a lot of it. But my point is, I think you guys have done a really, really, really good job on that.
Well, and there's so much to do, and we've seen what happens when you choose the wrong path, and you only have to drive north and west to see that, and it's scary. You see suffering, and you see crime, and you see unhealthy situations that people shouldn't be in. I think one of the things that I think about with homelessness is 3 things. One is you need housing, you need help, and you also need rules. Because to your point, there's lots of different circumstances with homelessness. Now, the person who is on the street with the cardboard sign is what people usually think of, but there's a hidden homelessness of families that is really devastating as well. And you've got kids who aren't able to have a safe place to sleep, and then they go to school.
Yeah.
So there's as different situations with homelessness as there are people.
Yeah.
For me, it's very important that we have rules because I think that sets the standard.
Yeah.
And so I was very supportive of Senator Galloway's bill that would make rules for our bigger cities when it came to homelessness, because I think if you set the standard, then you can move and attain that. If you don't have a standard, which is, people can sleep outside anywhere, then what are you working towards? Yeah. And so for me, that's a very important piece. One of the things I think Boise does really well is coordinated care.
Yes.
Because folks, you work with the government. Like, you know how frustrating it is when you call someplace and they say call another place, and you have a home.
Yeah, I like, as an old ER guy, like, it's triage, right?
Yes.
And the better you do triage, not everybody needs to be in a trauma room. Not everyone needs to be in an ER, but they do need primary care or urgent care. And so that having a really robust triage system. Another thing the city did 2 or 3 years ago, because I helped on that campaign, was one, create ways to get families off the streets by having units, and then two, they did a nice job of redoing their triage system so that they could get the appropriate resources to the appropriate families at the appropriate time. Was a big, big deal.
Well, I always think about how hard and frustrated I get if I can't get an answer that I need, and I have a home and healthy food.
Yeah.
Imagine if I was homeless trying to do it. The other thing that I think when we think about homelessness that's really important, and I've said this over and over again, is we have to have a nonprofit community that helps us do this. Yeah. Because that gives everyone an obligation, and it also gives people a way to help. Yeah. Because what I've seen in this community is people want to help, but they often don't know how. Yeah. So one of the things that the campaign that you worked on is the ability for folks to give personal money as a donation that can also help people. And then you have Catch, and you have Jesse Tree, and you have Interfaith Sanctuary. We need all these partners, and we need more.
Yeah, and you just mentioned a few of them. What a tremendous amount of work that happens. I mean, we should be very proud of. I just you look at problems around us, and I travel a lot. Everywhere I go, it's like, oh wow. I'm in Reno a ton now.
It's shocking, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm in Reno a lot, and so and the project we're doing is downtown Reno. And once these problems get unraveled, it is almost impossible to back up. So proactive, thoughtful leadership makes all the difference in the world.
It is necessary. And, when we talk about different voices at the table, we have to have different voices at that table too. Yeah. And I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the Boise Rescue Mission and what they do. Yeah. With only donations. Yeah. They don't take any government funding. And you see when people are able to truly change their lives, which is so hard. Yeah. It's miraculous. It really is.
Yeah, what Reverend Bill does and the group there. It's just,
angel.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, he's an angel.
Great. So there's some good news.
There is good news.
Housing.
Yeah, housing is tough. I mean, people talk to me about, we want more single family homes. And I tell them, I do too. Land is expensive. Yeah. Land's expensive. One of the things that I think it's important for us to do, and the zoning code attempts to do this, there's parts that we need to refine, but just really let the market be more of the driver than the government. And I think when you have government that's telling you should do things and you should do this way, and it's artificially raising costs, that will end up hurting people who are trying to get into homes.
But I agree with you, but and we were huge supporters of the new zoning code change. I think it needed to happen. Yeah. I think it was a long
way overdue,
a really hard thing. So many unintended things about it though that are now, and now you're living with government saying, okay, how do we clean up the stuff we have? And it's hard. So let me give you an example. This electronic vehicle thing. So new zoning code, you have to have a parking garage. Great. Parking garages now are about $45,000 to $50,000 a stall. Think about that for a minute. $45,000 to $50,000 a stall. And now, because electronic vehicles
are required,
that's not the worst part. Now, because they catch on fire, so then the fire department makes you have a half a stall per electronic vehicle stall in case the car catches on fire. So for every electronic vehicle you put in, you lose a half a stall in a garage. So your stalls just went from, let's just 50 to keep the math easy. Now it's $75,000 a stall just like that. And now the city is saying, hey, we want 20%. Then the other thing, Lucy, no one uses these things.
No.
Like
Yeah.
real practical. Like
Yeah.
you could, when you leave our building today, we have a stack of them over here. There's no one parking in them. Every one of our buildings, no one parks in them. Downtown, we own 3 garages. No one uses them. If you have one, you plug in at night at your home. But I use it as an example of, because I think it's a real kind of crystal clear example, real life example of how government is saying, hey, here are the things we want. But then on the other hand, they just almost can't get out of the way of themselves with really bad policy that they don't even realize you just jack the price of a parking stall up by 50%, and there's no way to get out of it. Then if you want to reduce it, you have to go do a CUP, and you have to go in and now it's 3 more months. It's just one example on a zoning code but I don't know how it ever changes, because I think what happens is, like, I don't think they're bad people, but they're just saying, oh yeah, we want this, so we're going to force this, and you're going to like it, and it makes sense because we're saving the environment by doing it. You're not saving the environment, first of all. I mean, I think there's enough stuff. I mean, if they ever truly looked at what it costs to create these batteries right now and what we're actually doing, no one's using them. And they don't ask the people that actually have the parking stalls to say, hey, are anyone using these things? And then on top of it, they're like, after all of that, there's no one to listen to you on costs, right? You're just saying. So anyway,
Well, amen. And this came up with the county.
Yeah.
I don't know how much you followed that.
I've followed it all, because it'll kill a project.
Yes.
Like this is not hyperbole here. Like because the zoning code forces you how many stalls you have. Then they force you to have 1.5 per each EV, and they're taking the cost. It just kills projects.
And this is why it's really important that people talk about this, because we can fix it. I always say, it's not the 10 Commandments. We can fix it.
But can you? Because I think the legislature passed a bill that says that the cities can't require EVs. And then the city of Boise just basically said, hey, screw you, we're going to do it anyway.
Well, I mean, this is something I think would be good to come for a vote so that people know, because to your point, every one of these things the government demands increases a cost. And I am concerned that this is another example where philosophy gets in the way of good old fashioned common sense.
I'm gonna be quiet. You got me on a little soapbox here. Okay, but we said land's too expensive.
Yeah.
So we can't sprawl. So first of all, here's kind of the world according to Boiseites. We can't sprawl. We're going up. We're not going to go use farmland. We're not going to sprawl. We're going to do all. So I get that part. Yeah. Forget that sprawl's happening.
And it will always happen.
And it will always happen. And so my argument is, if the city of Boise is not going to manage housing, then the valley will manage housing, and that's what's happening. The county's doing it. The other cities are doing it. I mean, and I honestly, there ought to be a field trip required just to go see what's going on. It's crazy what's going on. So sprawl's happening, but then you go back to the city of Boise, who's saying, hey, we need more homes. We need homes that people can afford. That comes out of the lips, right? But now it's got to be structured. So there's land's too expensive. So we want to make it easier for you guys to do vertical construction, all types. But now we're going to put parking requirements on you that don't make any sense. I mean, you see what I'm saying? Like it just, the amount of, it's like, do you really think that? Because if you really thought that, you probably wouldn't be doing what you're doing on your policy.
You're right. And the reality is that Boise can have its rules, but that doesn't mean that other people aren't going to go other places. So it will exasperate the problem. I think there's a lot that Boise can do. We're going to have to go up, but I also think you're going to have to go out.
Yeah.
I mean, there's entire land by Micron that you can develop. Southeast Boise, the sewer moratorium was a beater thing. Can we get over that? Can we talk about that? I think we have to. There's a lot of things that we can do that I think kind of make people shudder a little bit, but they have to be talked about.
Well, I think they have to be talked about because, or you can't say we want affordable housing.
Yeah, because you can't get it.
You can't.
The math doesn't work.
You can't do both things. You can say we're going to have highly regulated, highly government subscribed housing that's going to fit this box, and it's going to be expensive in Boise. You can say that, but you can't say we're going to do we're going to try to be helpful to reduce housing costs. You can't do it.
No, the math doesn't work.
No.
And the only way you get affordability is you take tax dollars to do it, which means you're taxing other people for it. That's what makes it affordable.
Which to me is the greatest irony of all ironies.
All of it, yeah.
In listen, we're in a friendly spot today because we're free market.
Yes.
Like
we are
conservative people.
Yeah.
But when you go, now you're going to we're just going to take government subsidy and subsidize think about this loop. We've now made housing more expensive because of our policy, and now we're going to go get government housing subsidies so that we can afford. You're not affording anything. Then the government gets involved. Every time the government gets involved, it gets out of whack the whole system. Because now you're subsidizing things that are only making everything more expensive. I don't. So housing's one. I don't know. I don't know what happens. But what we should be doing, of all our local governments, is saying we need to reduce regulation. We need to improve let the free market get all housing types out there, apartments. Condominiums, starter homes, medium homes. You need
Lots of variety.
Lots of variety.
Yeah.
And only if we do. The other example I'll use is even if you go around Idaho. It was fun going around Idaho when I ran for governor because you can go around Idaho and find the places that are most liberal and most restricted. This is 8 years ago. And now look at the cost. Yeah. I mean, you know those. Go to Teton County. Yeah. Go to Blaine County. Go to Boise. Like everywhere you go that is most regulated is most costly. It just is. And then it always goes together. And yet it always, then it's those same places trying to figure out workforce housing, trying to figure out housing costs when it's like, actually, you kind of created the problem you're having.
Yes. Yeah. You have just described the loop of which I live. But then you have others that would say, the pinnacle of our responsibility is the environment. So we have to have these EV spots. And so I don't believe that, but I'm just saying let's
talk about, there's two things can be mutually true. I mean, I think that, I would argue, okay, how is you killing a project in downtown Boise really going to change the environment globally? And if they really look back at the data behind all this, I think it's not a hill they die on. I don't think it's a hill they die on.
Let me give you an example. And I know that, I'm sure you watch all the city council meetings because they're scintillating. But there was one a couple weeks ago where Starbucks is putting in a drive-through by the airport. And they wanted more parking spaces. And the city council denied them those parking spaces because of climate change. That was the reasoning. So, of course, I voted no. I was like, no, they need their parking spaces. But that kind of attitude of like, at all costs, we are going to force this philosophy, even when it doesn't make sense.
That doesn't even make sense.
No, it doesn't.
Well, we were in there. We're doing a building for Quality Electric out in what's called Pleasant Valley 520. It's out at the corner of Orchard, where Orchard turns into Lake Hazel. It's out in the middle of nowhere. And in order to improve their flow of their internal site on their 10 acres, they wanted to have parking on one side of the building so that their trucks could come in for safety. Yeah. It required a 6-month CUP. It was hotly debated, and I'm thinking, what does this world become when a Idaho business taking their own dollars and building their place out in the middle of nowhere, and we're arguing over where? And by the way, safety. At some point, somebody needs to say, okay, is this better for these big trucks to not be here? But I don't know.
Well, you experienced it, and that's when common sense has left the building. And so
But I don't think it matters.
Oh, I think it matters.
Do you? I don't know. I get pretty discouraged. I get pretty discouraged because I think, oh man, these people sometimes don't really understand the way business works and the way dollars flow and the way people take risk. And
they may not, but that's why it's really important that we have this dialogue, because otherwise it won't change. Yeah. And so I'm an optimist eternally, but if we don't learn about these things, we can't fix them. Yeah. And so that's why it's really important.
Let me ask you a question. this is serious. If you look at the new zoning code rewrite,
Mm-hmm.
it went through and it had a lot of, literally good reasons why it went through. And then it's normal when you do something this big to have some cleanup. Is there like a committee? Because some of this is so predictable, Lucy.
Yes.
Like,
Well,
like
there needs to be more.
Like some of this you can like go, oh,
Yeah.
that doesn't make sense. That
Yeah.
doesn't make sense. Why do we have to wait for like citizens to get like it's whack-a-mole, right? They just said boom, 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 boom until someone finally is like, I'm going to do something about this. Why can't like calmer heads like go in and say these things
This
need
is
to be
therapy
fixed?
for me. I'm feeling very therapeutic. I feel like I need to give you my $25 copay. I really do. Because I was just constantly saying, we were supposed to review this. We were supposed to
Yeah.
review this. And it's not just, I don't want typos.
Yeah.
I don't want a typo review. I
Yeah.
want a real review.
Yeah.
And we need to do better. And I think that there is a view that if you go too deep, the whole thing will fall apart. And I don't believe that.
I don't believe that.
But I think that there is this natural criticism, like, oh no. And I think we have to, because it will affect our economy for years to come. And here's my nightmare. My nightmare is that Boise becomes old and tired and 10 Mile becomes the center of the valley.
It's the irony of all ironies that you've said earlier is that will happen. And you know who's getting also very aggressive is the county.
Yes. Yeah. Because
because
yes,
they're just saying, hey, we'll approve these subdivisions then.
So to me, it is imperative to the future of Boise, because what will happen is Boiseans will pay more taxes because we're not growing like everyone else.
Right.
We take all of the impact, but we're not growing like Meridian or Star. And then people are like, I'm not going to deal with downtown Boise. It's not worth it. And they will go other places and we will suffer. And
pricing, it'll just get really, it's going to get really expensive, super elite.
Yes.
And it's going to drive out families.
Yes.
And that's what's happening.
And that's not what Boise should be.
But it's the North End.
Well, there is a reality there.
I mean, that's, and I think there's people from the North End that would just say that's what we should be.
There definitely are, which I think is one of the reasons it's so good that we have districts.
Yeah.
When my husband and I moved to the Valley, we lived in Nampa, and we got our first little starter home.
Yeah.
We were so excited. We loved it. We were in a great little subdivision with lots of young families. We're all in combat zone with little kids. And that commute over time just became so hard. And we were spending so much money. And we just looked, how close can we get to our jobs? And we ended up in West Boise. And we've been there ever since. And we love it. And it is our little pocket of paradise. But it is a different pocket of paradise than the North End. Yeah. And it has a different...
Hey, listen, I'm not saying anything negative about the North End. Yeah. I'm just saying it's super expensive.
It's
super
crazy
elitist.
Expensive.
I mean, it's just you know...
It's beautiful, but very expensive.
Yeah, it's just different. It's not, you're not going to get a family friendly, young, it's just not. And so I think that's and listen, I think that you can look around the country at cities that have done what Boise's doing, and you're going to have an elite, expensive, not growing place. And then you're going to have costs, right? I think Skip just put up his building, for his apartment building, right? That's beautiful. And you're going to have maybe some things happen like that, but like buildings that people can afford or it's just going to be hard. And I do think I want to hit on one other thing you said. I think the Valley is dynamic. There's a lot of ways this happened in Salt Lake. You don't have to go too far to see what happened to Salt Lake City proper.
Yes, same.
And you can look everywhere around it. And luckily you do have super dynamic. You have dynamic community in Garden City.
Garden City is doing incredible
you got
things.
Garden City.
Yeah.
I saw Mayor Evans is going to run again, but you got Garden City. You got Cuna. Where I am, you got Star. You got Middleton, you got Meridian, you got Nampa, you got Caldwell, you got cities that are just like saying, "Hey, we'll figure this out for our families," and you got the county. The one catch. Oh, one other thing I was going to say is, I don't think the one thing that the city, I think this is pretty profound. I'm going to tell you this. I think for a long time, the one thing that allowed cities to dominate discussions on development, large developments, was sewer. It's been sewer and water, but sewer was the biggie, right?
Yeah.
And now with technology, you're going to have these dynamic, for $5 million, you can put in a sewer treatment plant and do it within your thing for about, $5 million for about 500 homes. And that's a game changer, because I think what's going to happen is you're going to see that stranglehold on, hey, we're going to, and then there's all the other services that come along with it. I mean, it's not easy, but it is going to force decisions to be made. Especially, I'm thinking of South Boise.
Yeah, and they have to be made. And I this is where we need some new thinking, because if Boise continues to put its feet in the cement, the county will approve things, and we will get all of the impact and none of the fees. And so we have to think bigger than this. And if you're a free market person, the more homes you have, the price goes down. And I believe it.
Yeah. That was. Let's talk about some more stuff that's going great. Because I think there are so many parks, libraries.
Yeah.
I mean, think of the other wonderful things that the city has done and doing. And by the way, there's a lot of wonderful things. I think we're just experiencing growth that's causing some really uncomfortable conversations.
I think what makes a city, and you think about wherever you go, it's the parks and the art.
Yeah.
That is what, in the landscape, that is what changes your feel about a city. And it's something that we need more of and we need to preserve. And we have a goal for a 10-minute walk to a park, which is a phenomenal goal, because we want to preserve some of these open spaces. That's where people gather, and people need to gather. And art is an important piece too, because that's why people travel all around the world, is to see different art, because it represents your story. And we're very lucky because the river is our biggest art.
Yeah.
The river, we've got the river and we've got the foothills. So we have that already. But these other services that aren't as visible but very important are, I think, what make a city. And part of it is libraries. So consider this: 25 years ago, Boise had one library and one at the mall, like a little outlet store at the mall. And now we have several libraries, and we're trying to look at how we get more. And this is an incredibly important issue for my district, because we're in this donut hole. So, probably the vein of this conversation has been speak up, get involved. And the reason we are having this conversation in West Boise about libraries is because of one guy who looked at the map and said, we're in a donut hole, and why do I have to drive to Eagle or Garden City for a library when I'm in Boise? Mark Salisbury. He has single-handedly driven this conversation. I had lunch with him in January of 2022. That's how long we've been working on this. So those are the kind of things the city has to invest in, because we need parity in services. Because if people start thinking that if you
Can you maybe hit the importance of libraries as gathering places, and just like, I mean, I think I'll let you take a swing at this.
Well, every sort of research will show you that the most rewarding thing in your life is your relationships. And where do you go to meet people?
Yeah.
And we have lots of new people. And if they don't have a structured social circle through church or clubs or their neighborhood, where do they go? And how do they feel like they can meet people? And libraries are mini universities all around our city.
Yeah.
And they're a place to gather. They're a place for, places for people to come, places for people to think, places for people to learn. And I think they're the most important thing that we can do as a city, other than police and fire, because they help drive individual change. And our libraries do incredible things you probably wouldn't know that they do.
So much community outreach and community involvement in programs. As you have this age of technology, it's also super cool to me. So awesome that we can hold on to this thing that still allows you to interact with people. My daughter, we have 3 grandkids, and they go to the library every week.
Yeah.
They go every week, sometimes twice a week. And my grandkids just love it. And they go in, and there's the story time programming, there's the interactive things that happen. And they go to different libraries. They live in South Meridian, but they go to different ones. And it's like part of their routine. And I just love that part of it. But it is a fabric of our community. And I'm so glad that we're investing in that part of how people interact in the community.
And it's an important piece that I think builds our community in an unseen way, but an important way. If you thought about the fact that 25 years ago, Boise had just the downtown library and a place at the mall, and you think about now you've got Bound Crossing and Hillcrest and Collister, and hopefully one in West Boise very soon. Those are the things that really feed a neighborhood.
Yeah.
And I went to many of the listening sessions on the library, and what people kept saying is, we like the staff here. They know our names. They're very helpful, and that this is our place to go, where we can learn. And it is a 21st century world. Hey, look, I use AI. I use all of that stuff, but there is something meaningful about a library that we do need to hold on to.
Wow, this went really fast.
Thank you so much. There's so much we could talk about.
Thank you for, one of the most important things. So a little bit of background, 4th of July parade.
Yes.
Near and dear to your heart.
Very dear.
Luckily, we've been able to be big supporters.
And thank you.
This is our second year,
Thank
kind
you.
of getting that what it is. But with our country, with the 250 coming up, I wanted you to speak on this because this is your passion, and
Yes.
I wanted this forum to tell everyone out there listening about it.
Well, I am unapologetically patriotic, and I think we have a miracle of a country, and we need to celebrate it. So there's lots of ways to do that. And the first thing is, we've got 4th of July coming up, and we've got a parade in downtown Boise, our capital city. But this year is also going to kick off something that I want every Idahoan to know about, and that's this 250th anniversary of our country. So think about that. So if you just do the math, if you're 50, you have been alive for 1/5 of this country.
It's amazing, isn't it, to think about it that
Of
way?
the country. This is a very young country with lots of possibilities, and this is our time to celebrate. This is our time to look to the future. There's going to be so many events. If you want to be part of it, you can Google Idaho America 250 Ambassadors. You can sign up. They'll give you all the things. Paul Revere's already come. There's going to be so many fun things that we can really take upon and just enjoy this moment because it is historical. And I got to give one more plug. So I've been trying to become a member of the Daughters of the American Revolution. And it has been fascinating to find where my ancestors have gone and where they've served. And when you look at the courage that people had, I was reading last night about one of my ancestors who was in the middle of nowhere, New Hampshire, who basically, when the Declaration came out, people signed their own declaration, said, we're out. We're Americans. That takes courage. And we need to bottle that up and move it forward. And the best way to do it is to look at what's happened in the past, take those lessons, and move forward.
Hey, before Matthew, can you pull this up? So if anyone wants more information on this, 4th of July parade first. Let's start with that.
So, see, this is when Idaho 4th. Oh, see, this is going to be sad when I don't know off the top of my head.
We'll get there. Boise 4th of July parade.
BoiseFourth.com. Yes. Yeah.
So it's BoiseFourth.com.
There's a veterans breakfast. There's even going to be a pet parade. Come on. Okay. And then by Zamsos, and then there's the actual parade route.
So fantastic website.
Yes.
Gives you all the details, how you can participate. If you've got a company that wants to participate, this is a big deal. Thank you for doing this. This is so amazing and such a part. You think of the next generation, teaching them about patriotism, our country. This is awesome. So that's that.
This is childhood memories. This is memories. And then if you go to Idaho 250, America 250. Yep, there you go.
There we go.
And you can
this
sign
one,
up.
just so this URL is america250idaho.gov.
Yeah, and you can sign up to be an ambassador. Julie Ellsworth, their state treasurer, is really leading this. So many incredible things. Be part of this.
Yeah.
This is history. You're living it.
So there's the countdown to the celebration. We'll go up a little bit, Matthew. It's 402 days, 21 hours, 11 minutes, 14 seconds. This is great. We had to hit this.
Yes.
And it was on my list. So, well, yeah. Anything else we missed? We have 5 more minutes. Anything else that you want to say? Or
Yeah, I think it's easy to be discouraged in the political environment. And I often joke that I have the serenity prayer because there's lots of things I could get upset about, especially nationally. We have an opportunity here to govern ourselves.
yeah.
And people are busy. They're running businesses. They're raising families. All the things that we we expect people to do and we want them to do, and we want people to be, be their best, live their best lives, so to speak. People can change the system. Their voices are massively important. And when people stop thinking that, we will no longer have a government run by people. And so, as frustrated as people get, and there is a notion in politics that if you get tired and you leave the building, then other people win, and it's true. I always say, if you leave the arena, you've lost the game.
Yeah.
And sometimes you might need to go sit in the stands for a while, and then you can get back on the field. But we have to stay involved about what we care about, because these things, the things that we've created, didn't happen by accident.
Yeah.
Someone's blood, sweat, tears, ideas made this valley. So how do we keep it and keep moving forward? We only do that with the people that are here now doing the work for the people that will come tomorrow.
Well,
so keep at it.
I love it. And I love your optimism. I love the way you interact. I love the fact that, and I love the fact that we have, you can say what you want about our city, like Jimmy, Colin,
good people.
Jordan. They're great people. They're passionate about their things.
Yeah.
Mayor McLean, and I think of all the good work that's happening right now. I'm really proud of the way it's happening. And listen, these challenges are great challenges to have. The fact that we're talking about all these things that are challenging and hard for cities, that it's because we have such a great place. Everyone wants to live here. So thank you for your efforts. Thank you for your service. It is a calling in a lot of ways. The number of hours you put into this.
There's a lot.
And without very many thank yous. So on behalf of us and our listeners, thank you, Luci, for what you do, for your service. Tell your family thanks for letting you go put up with it. And
they do bear a brunt of many, many monologues at home.
Yeah, they're there when you get home, right? So,
well, thank you. And thanks for the opportunity to talk about these things, because, a bumper sticker world won't get us this kind of movement. And again, if we don't talk about it, it won't change.
Yeah.
So thank you for the venue.
It's the hard work. Well, appreciate you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you for your friendship and for all you do for our state and our people.
I love Boise. Thank you.